Consumer protection is on the road. Check out our latest speaker series. Hi, I'm Eric Friedman, the Director of the Office of Consumer Protection here in Montgomery County. One of our missions at OCP is consumer education. We're available to come to your business, school, or community association with information geared to your needs. Today, I'm here with my staff at the Holiday Park Senior Center in Wheaton to talk about issues that directly affect seniors. Come on inside and check out what's going on.
Unfortunately, our community, like the rest of the world, has some deceptive people out there, people who are a little unscrupulous, unconscionable, and we as seniors need to make sure that we're well informed. So I hope today's program helps you. I don't know if there's anyone out there that has been a victim of scams, but when you're a victim, initially you don't always want to tell someone that you've been a victim, but it is so important to our independence, to our feeling competent, to our feeling that we can handle our own circumstances. So the best thing we can do is to know what's going on and to be well informed. It's with great delight that I introduce Eric Friedman.
As you know, Montgomery County is very fortunate to have an active and aggressive consumer protection office. Our office has been around for 39 years. It was established in 1971. And we have experts on our staff, we have attorneys on our staff, we have certified auto mechanics on our staff. And here's one thing. You only have to remember one thing today. And that one thing is you don't have to remember all the laws, all the consumer protection laws that are out there. You only have to remember one thing, and that is that we have an active, aggressive consumer protection office that's there to help you, and we want you to call us, contact us, check our webpage, but we're there to help you. And that's really the only thing you have to remember. We're going to tell you about some scams. We're going to tell you about some laws. We wear three hats generally. We do complaint resolution. We try and resolve complaints. We do consumer education, which is this is what we're part of right now. And we do law enforcement. We issue civil citations, we issue subpoenas, we file lawsuits, and we try and go after people who are victimizing consumers. And as you probably know, old scams never die. They just go high tech. I mean, snake oil salesmen have been around for hundreds of years and it doesn't change. Just their methods change. So now they're using the internet. Now they're using cell phones. Now they're using the computer, the telephone to do what they did 100 years ago the old-fashioned way. So we're here to give you some examples of some of these topics and hopefully give you some information. Let me let you know one other secret that you probably already know, and that is the element of trust is the underpinning of every consumer transaction. I don't care whether you have a handshake deal or whether you have a 100-page contract. The element of trust is the bottom line. When someone comes into your home, we had a terrible case, and Ralph Vines will probably tell you a little bit about this one, about a chimney repair service. They came into the home, and the homeowner happened to be in a wheelchair, very nice woman, and thought there may have been something wrong with their chimney. Well, they climbed up the chimney, and they said, sure enough, you need some repairs. And when the time they were all done, she had paid, no exaggeration, $46,000 to have these repairs made to a chimney. Now, I don't care whether you're in a wheelchair or not in a wheelchair. None of us are going to get up on the roof of our house, look down the chimney. We trust that person to tell us what we need. Just as if we bring our car into a repair shop, the mechanic tells us we need this part or that part, just like a dentist tells us we need this or that. The element of trust has to be there. And when it's not, you have consumer scams. Hopefully, we can help you prevent some of those. And if you are the victim, we can help resolve the problem when it does occur. Let me just say one other general point, and then we're going to get to the real experts who are going to give you the real information. And that is something, again, you already know besides trust. Trust your instincts. You know, we're all part of the animal kingdom, and yet we pretend sometimes that we're not. We think that all our knowledge comes in a book, or all our knowledge comes from a computer, but we have inside all of us a sense of right and wrong. And I can tell you how many times consumers have come to all of us and said after they had a problem, you know, something about that shop gave me a funny feeling, or something about that man I didn't trust. I should have trusted my instincts. And I'm here to tell you today, absolutely right. Rely upon that. You've got to do some homework. Check on certain things before you make a purchase. But don't forget to rely upon your instincts to tell you when something might be right and when something might be wrong. You know, the telemarketers call us at home and they try and trick us into giving them information over the telephone. And again, consumers will say, oh, he sounded so nice. Oh, he sounded so trusting, such an honest Well, of course he sounded that way, because if he didn't, he'd have to have legitimate jobs like the rest of us. So again, people can be very skilled at tricking us out of our money. I want to tell you about the latest scam. You haven't heard this one on the news yet, but you will. It involves air duct cleaning, and Ralph may also be talking about this one a little bit more. There are companies that send us coupons in the mail that say they'll come into our house and clean the ducts, the air ducts, the heating ducts, for $59 or $69. And what we have found in looking into one of these companies is that it's really just a ticket, a trick to get their foot in the door. We've seen people who have paid $3,500, $2,500, thousands of dollars for some type of services which have questionable value. So again, we've got to be very careful when we get those kinds of coupons in the mail. We also had a situation with a used car dealer that was selling cars to which he didn't have good title. Again, when you go and buy a used car, you assume that the person selling you the car owns the car and has title to the car. Again, that element of trust. So there are lots of problems out there, and some of it comes from the fact that we're not a small community anymore. You know, Montgomery County has approximately 1 million people living in Montgomery County.
The Do Not Call registry is a way to place your name on a federal Do Not Call list that basically says, I don't want to get calls from telemarketers. Pretty straightforward, right? And this doesn't solve 100% of the problems. You need to understand, and I get this question a lot. I'm still getting, you know, I get this question, hey, I'm still getting some calls, especially around election time, right? Or about charities. So I need you to understand what calls are covered and what aren't. You may still get calls on, you know, from or on behalf of political organizations or charities or telephone surveyors. So if they're not actually selling something to you, they can still call you. But think about how many calls that is. I mean, really, if it's not election time, you're really going to cut down on the number of calls that you're getting. So what I say is, if you don't want to get calls from telemarketers, you want to get yourself on this list. And it's incredibly simple to do. If you have access to the internet, it's donotcall.gov. And we have this information available at our office as well, or there's an 800 number, toll-free number. It's 1-888-382-1222. And you need to call from the phone that you want to add to the Do Not Call registry.
Coupons. I have an advertisement here, and Mr. Freeman also touched upon this. I live in the Germantown area, and this came to my home, and it is actually one of those businesses that says for $79.95 they can clean your air ducts. And this is a pretty impressive ad. I mean, not only do they tell you about being Happy New Year's and they can clean your ducts, they can clean your carpet, they can clean your upholstery, they can waterproof your basement. They tell you everything except where they're located. There is no business address on this form. So guess what? When you come to my office and complain, we're not going to know where they're at either, which is going to extend our investigative process. Then we're going to have to subpoena the phone numbers to figure out where they're actually located. And then oftentimes we find that even that information has to send us to another source of information, and we may lose a couple of weeks in just trying to get to the address for the proper entity. In this particular ad, they list phone numbers for Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. And guess what? When I went to the Home Improvement website today before coming out, there is no license for this cleaning and restoration service. But they're offering to do installation of your basements. That should require the state license. And then, just lastly, and things to watch out for, again, going door to door, someone knocking, be very skeptical. And I would say, last but not least, as Mr. Freeman suggested, contact our office. We can tell you if we've had complaints. We can tell you if the merchant has resolved complaints. The Better Business Bureau and the Washington Checkbook are also good resources, along with, most of you probably already know that plumber needs a license, electrician needs a license. All the professionals out there need some kind of license. If they can't show or produce a license, you should be very worried and cautious and not do business with that company.
How many times have you purchased an item and decided that you didn't want it after all and you tried to return it? I'm asking a question. Really, have you tried to return it and found that you could not return the item? And, you know, we often think that we should be able to return it because when we purchased it, it was basically we are returning it in the condition that we purchased it. I mean, it hasn't been opened and that kind of thing. And we also have the receipt. However, in the state of Maryland, there is not a requirement that the retailers have to accept the return of the merchandise. Did you all realize that? I know that maybe some of you have experienced that. Now, but there is, what the law requires, the Maryland refund law requires that if in fact the retailers provides a refund, they have to post it in the store, a visible sign, or it has to be on the receipt or the product itself. And we say a good practice is to be sure to find out what those policies are before you purchase the product. Now, let me give you an example of how sometimes the policy changes from store to store, retailer to retailer. In a small clothing boutique, that refund policy may be you'll have up to 14 days to do that exchange, whereas in a larger chain, such as Target, you may have up to 90 days or 60 days to refund. You could have a cash refund or store credit or just to exchange it. Whereas the smaller store, you might just have the store credit and not a refund.
Have I ever been scammed? No, but I'm very cautious because I have a lot of experience using computers. Number one, if you get an email or are accessed from some place that you don't know, do not respond. If you respond, even if it seems like a legitimate website, it may in fact be a decoy. It may be wrong. So if you didn't make the original contact, ignore it. Never, ever give personal information or credit card information to a site like that because you're going to be surprised. The other thing I would say is security exists on the web. If you look with a legitimate site, you will see a small lock symbol in the top right-hand corner of the screen. That means the conversation taking place between you and that other party is secure and coded so no one else can pick it up, and that's very important.
Well, I'm generally here on Wednesday, and I looked at the bulletin in the front of the area there and when I enter, and so I was interested in protecting myself as a consumer. Personally, I have some home improvements that have to be done. I've been in my house for over 30 years, and I had the original siding on there, and I was trembling to think, I'm going to need some of these devious salesmen to come in and talk to me.
Well, the main thing I learned is I'm not alone. I'm just as exposed I'm not the only one that's exposed to these situations. Just like recently I had some work done on my roof by some of these traveling people from some other part of Maryland. I never got an address. Whether or not they did or did not do anything, I'm not sure. But they did work on some of my neighbors, so I figured if they accepted it, maybe it was good. There are no leaks, but again, I wasn't up there to see what they were doing to my roof, but I gave them $1,200.
If you'd like our office to provide speakers to your organization, school, business, or civic association, just give us a call or send an email. We can tailor the speech around the needs of your audience. Well, that's it for today's show. We'll close with a short video from our colleagues at the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Thanks for watching.